Beijing's press hall is filled with the soft clicking of cameras and the quiet murmur of reporters from around the world. Under the pale blue insignia of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, spokesman Lin Jian steps up to the podium, poised, measured and ready to deliver a message that Beijing once heard far beyond its borders. China has spoken, and its tone is both defensive and defiant. In the wake of renewed tensions with Washington, Beijing is now responding to a fresh round of economic warnings from US President Donald Trump. Earlier this week, Trump suggested the United States might halt imports of Chinese cooking oil, an unexpected escalation that has sent ripples through global markets already jittery over tariffs, technology bans and supply chain disruptions. At the podium, Lin Jian adjusts his notes and begins his statement. His voice remains calm, even when the words carry weight. He says China's position is consistent and clear. Trade wars and tariff wars have no winners and are not in the interests of any party. The two sides should resolve relevant issues through consultation on the basis of equality, respect, and mutual benefit. The message is unmistakable. Beijing is signaling that confrontation will hurt both sides. It's a reminder of the lessons learned from the previous U.S. China trade war, when tariffs on steel, semiconductors, and consumer goods sent shockwaves through the global economy. The subtext is simple. Beijing does not want another economic fight, but it will not be the one to blink first. As Lin Jian speaks, his words are carefully chosen, a hallmark of China's diplomatic style. Yet behind the diplomatic language lies a growing unease about the pace and scale of Washington's measures. Trump's new administration has been tightening its grip on trade, energy and technology links with Beijing, framing it as an effort to protect US jobs and end dependency on China. But Beijing sees it differently, as a campaign of containment aimed at slowing China's rise as a global power. Lin Jian's statement continues, shifting to another controversy now testing China's relations with Europe, the rare earths dispute. Rare earth elements and the minerals essential for producing everything from electric vehicles to smartphones and guided missiles have long been a strategic lever in China's economic arsenal. Beijing controls the majority of global rare earth production, and its new export controls have triggered an outcry across Western capitals. The European Union's trade chief called China's move unjustified, accusing Beijing of weaponizing global supply chains. But Lin Jian rejects that notion outright. He says China implements export controls on relevant items in accordance with the law to better safeguard world peace and regional stability and fulfill international obligations such as non-proliferation. This is also in line with international practice. His defense is couched in legal language: in accordance with the law, international obligations, stability. But the underlying message is one of strategic assertion. Beijing is making clear that it alone decides how its critical minerals are managed, and that any hint of Western hypocrisy on trade rules will not go unchallenged. In a follow-up, Lin emphasizes dialogue. We are willing to strengthen exchanges with all countries to maintain the security and stability of global production and supply chains. It's a diplomatic olive branch, but one wrapped in steel. Analysts in Beijing note that China's tone on rare earths has shifted from defensive to assertive, no longer apologizing for controls, but portraying them as responsible governance. Yet behind that message lies a calculated signal to both Washington and Brussels: push too far, and the world's green industries may feel the pinch. The next question comes from a Dutch journalist, referencing the Dutch government's recent move against Nexperia, a Chinese-owned chipmaker based in the Netherlands. In a dramatic step, The Hague invoked a Cold War-era law to seize partial control of Nexperia, citing national security concerns over China's influence in the semiconductor sector. Lin Jian's response is sharp, almost indignant. China consistently opposes generalizing the concept of national security and discriminatory practices against enterprises from specific countries. Relevant countries should adhere to market principles and refrain from politicizing economic and trade issues. It's a familiar refrain, one Beijing has used repeatedly over the past few years as Western nations tighten scrutiny of Chinese investments, but this time the tone feels heavier. Lin's words are not just about one company. They reflect a broader frustration at what China sees as the politicization of global commerce. He concludes, China's determination to safeguard its legitimate rights and interests is unswerving. The statement lands like a line drawn in the sand. Around the room, journalists type furiously, knowing these remarks will headline broadcasts across the globe. The symbolism is clear. China is not retreating. It's reclaiming narrative control amid a storm of economic confrontation. Beyond the press hall, the tension between China and its major trading partners is rippling across industries. Multinationals that rely on Chinese rare earths are quietly lobbying Brussels for exemptions. Semiconductor executives in Europe are scrambling to understand how the Nexperia case might redefine cross-border investment. And in Washington, Trump's aides are reportedly considering new tariffs on Chinese batteries and solar components. For Beijing, all this reinforces its sense that the world is closing ranks against it, but also that its leverage is growing. China's command of critical minerals, manufacturing infrastructure, and vast consumer markets means any trade war will come at a global cost. And yet there's another layer to this story, the domestic one. Inside China, these international disputes are being framed as tests of resilience and sovereignty. State media headlines praise the government's firm defense of national dignity, while social media comments mirror the sentiment that China must never again be bullied on trade. As Lin Jian exits the stage, the room begins to empty, but his words linger, both in their cautious diplomacy and their quiet defiance. Trade wars have no winners, he said, a message both conciliatory and warning. The meaning depends on who's listening. For Trump, it may be heard as a sign of weakness, an invitation to push harder. For Europe, perhaps a plea for negotiation. But for Beijing's domestic audience, it's a reassurance. China will not back down, no matter how high the tariffs or how loud the criticism. In the days to come, analysts expect more countermeasures. Some speculate Beijing could tighten exports further or restrict access to certain advanced materials crucial for Western industries. Others believe China will instead focus on diplomacy, using its influence in the global south and among BRICS nations to rally support for a more balanced trade system. What's clear is that the lines are being redrawn. The trade tensions that began years ago as tariff disputes are now spilling into new arenas: technology, energy, and national security. The Nexperia case is just one example of how geopolitics and commerce are merging into a single battlefield, and at the heart of it all stands China, defiant, strategic, and increasingly unyielding. As night falls over Beijing, the lights of the Foreign Ministry building flicker against the skyline, a quiet reminder that, even amid global economic friction, diplomacy remains China's chosen weapon. Its spokespeople, like Lin Jian, may speak softly, but behind their measured tones lies a deep conviction that the world must learn to live with China not as a manufacturing hub alone, but as a political power that demands respect and, when necessary, obedience. Trade wars may have no winners, as Lin Jian said, but in today's divided world, Beijing is betting that it can at least outlast its rivals.